This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. This week's episode is brought to you again by our good friends, the magicbookshop.com. Thank you, Eric Citron, proprietor of themagicbookshop.com, for sponsoring this podcast, and I encourage and implore you guys to go and check out their website. If you are looking at buying a book or selling some books, I would suggest you go and look, because he has not only all the newest books, but also a lot of old and rare and out-of-print books that are well worth taking a look at. If you're thinking about buying something that you long wanted to have, perhaps he may be able to help you out on that, and you can add that to your library. And also, if you have some books perhaps in your library that you're looking to sell, or perhaps an entire library, he is also looking to acquire from you if you have something that would be of interest. So contact Eric and he'd be glad to talk with you about that. And if you purchase anything at all through themagicbookshop.com, you will receive a 15% discount by using the word magic word, all one word, no spaces or periods or anything, on the checkout when you have a place to put that in the promo code. Just put magic word, and there you go, 15% off, and Bob's your uncle. Well, this week we're going to begin also a new contest for the next couple of weeks. Jonathan Levitt has finally released the version of the Stranger app for Android. This has been available only for the Apple operating system for a couple of years, but he has just released this for the Android, and he is going to give away one copy of the Stranger app in Android and one version of the Stranger app in the iPhone operating system then as well. Just so you have an idea of what the Stranger is, let me explain it. The Stranger actually looks like real mind reading, and it's really easy to do. A person will freely name any card. There's no force. It's totally free selection. And then the participants can dial a random phone number. No forces, any number, to anyone, and anyone can participate also. And everyone then can listen on the speakerphone as a complete stranger answers and names the card. It is amazing, and it can do so much, and this is a great deal, because if you buy one for either the Android or the iPhone, it's going to cost you $150. So this is an amazing offer here. Thank you again, Jonathan Levitt. So all you have to do is go to this week's episode, and you'll see a form there towards the bottom that you can complete, and be sure to indicate whether that you are entering the contest for a copy of the app for the iPhone or the Android. Another form that's at the bottom of that page is an opportunity for you to be the beneficiary of some funds to buy some magic. This is the Magician's Relief Project, and we just started this last week, and it's going to be running for 10 weeks. We have now 9 more weeks to go with this, in which that money is being designated to be applied as a gift card to a magic dealer, and that will be then for a person whose name is randomly and anonymously drawn. So we have a person's name who has been drawn already this week, and so that person will be receiving notification that he or she was a winner, and that they have then a balance in a particular magic shop in order to buy magic. So if you are in need and feel as if that this might help perk you up a little bit, then I suggest that you go and sign up on this form. Again, it is anonymous. It is not charity. Most all of us are in need to one degree or another. And if you feel as if that you can benefit from this, or if you know someone perhaps who is in a little bit of financial difficulty and trying to make ends meet during this time, please make sure that you do go to the Magic Word Podcast for this week's episode, put in a name and email address, and if your name is selected, you will remain anonymous. And please, if you again know someone else who could be in need, then be sure and put in their name and email address. And if you would like to help out in some way, then please contact me. That's Scott at themagicwordpodcast.com, and I will tell you how that you can add your funds then also to helping magicians in need for the Magician's Relief Project. Well, let's get into this week's episode. I have known Mark Mason for a long number of years, as I'm sure many of you have as well, because he is always at the major magic conventions and is also the one that has the most customers, it seems, who are stacked up 3 or 4 or 6 or 10 deep, it seems like, in the front of his desk or his table there in the Magic Dealer's room, because he's got such original and interesting and unusual types of things that he shows and demonstrates, and his personality and his flair for performing tricks, demonstrating these ideas it's just infectious. It's like, I got to have one of those, and they're so darn clever. He uses a lot of different ideas in developing this. So this week we get to talk a little bit about some of his creative juices. How is it that he comes up with these different ideas, and his relationship with Bob Swadling, who is another person who helps him with his ideas, and coincidentally both being from England and coincidentally now living in Florida, about 30 minutes apart from each other. How weird is that? And we talk a little bit about Mark's past when he lived in Blackpool, and then why he had transitioned and moved over to the U.S., where he resides then in a small town in Florida. Anyhow, the very interesting conversation that we have here this week with one of Magic's favorite dealers that I call a master dealer. Please welcome Mr. Mark Mason here on The Magic Word. Today we'll have with me a good friend all the way down, actually from Florida. I guess I should say from England by way of Florida, so he is down there then right now, who is the owner and proprietor of JB Magic, and has been a popular dealer throughout the years. And just the mention of his name, you all have good thoughts of him because he's such a congenial guy, creative guy, and just fun to be around. And he is the magician's magician, and I should say the magician's dealer. Please welcome Mark Mason. Hey there, Mark.
Hey, Scott. Thank you so much for inviting me on today. How are you over in sunny Texas?
We are fine, and I can't believe there'd be more sunny here than would be in sunny Florida. How close are you actually to the coast?
About 1 hour.
Oh, okay. So
I live pretty central. I live in a tiny town called Mount Dora, and it's about 1 hour over to Flagler Beach and that way, and about an hour and 15 over to Clearwater.
Okay, so not all that far then necessarily.
Yeah. No, occasionally. So every now and then we take a little drive to the coast and go for a sandwich or a little cocktail. I know you like a little cocktail as well.
I do.
We'll go and have a little rum runner over at the beach occasionally and watch the ocean. It's not too far for us.
Now, is Mount Dora a suburb of a larger city, or is it just a small village?
No, it's a small area where the total population for the entire area is about 10,000. But so it's small. We're about an hour down to Orlando Airport. I'm about 1 hour above Orlando Airport.
Yeah. You know, I am from a small town myself, actually, of about 6,000 people in southern Illinois. So I know and appreciate small towns and how everybody knows each other, and it's completely unique from the larger city where I reside now.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, knowing that you're from Blackpool, and we'll get more into that a little bit later, but why did you come from Blackpool, I guess, to Florida, and particularly to such a small city? I mean, Blackpool is a large place, and then end up in Mount Dora there.
Yeah, so I'm from a really big city. I'm from Leeds, really, which is one of the biggest cities in England. It's the 5th biggest city. And then when I was about 18-ish, I went over to Blackpool and ended up working on the fairground there, you know, working the side stalls, the game stalls. Mm-hmm. And eventually got into magic via another path and opened a little magic shop, and that was quite successful. JB Magic was pretty good. We did really well over there, and that was in Blackpool. And we used to come to Florida really as the typical British tourist, you know, to Orlando.
Yeah.
And then one day I saw a TV show, by the way, I'm not making this up, this is all true, called Florida on a Tank of Gas.
Okay.
And Tricia was my wife. Tricia, a lot of the people here will know Trish. She's always with me. She was in the shower. And when she came out, I said, I've just seen this TV show called Florida on a Tank of Gas. And today's place was Mount Dora, and it's about 1 hour from where we were on vacation. So I said, let's go find the place. And we came and found it. And Tricia said to me, if ever we come to live in America, if ever you do come here, I want to live in Mount Dora.
Wow.
So we ended up living here. But yeah, it is small. I mean, when I say small, we've got a post office and a wine bar and shops and stores and.
Right.
One cool thing about our downtown, Scott, is there's no big store. There's no what I call chain restaurants, no big store. Nothing. They don't allow them. They're not allowed here.
Yeah, no big box stores, nothing like Costco and Walmart or anything like that.
No, you have to go down to Orlando to find a Costco or a Walmart or we have an Olive Garden, but it's 15 miles away, or an Outback that's 15 miles away. Downtown, we only allow mom and pop restaurants. Mm-hmm. Which I love. I guess being a small business myself, I love supporting those small people. We try and go down there. And the other cool thing here is me and Tricia love music. We're big musos. We love music. And there's about 3 to 4 live bands a week playing Mount Dora.
Oh, really? Do they have like an outdoor concert hall or something? Or is
they have an outdoor area, but we have, because of where we live in Lake County, lake as in a boat.
Yeah.
So there's lots of little bars and cocktail places on the lakes, and they always have a band when the sun sets and stuff. And so we get to see 3 or 4 live bands a week.
Is it a variety? I mean, like whether it's country music or...
Yeah, there's a little country, that southern rock sound that they love so much here.
Yeah.
Every 4th Monday, the orchestra practices, the proper orchestra, 16-piece, and they do all blues, jazz, and...
Wow.
The Rat Pack style, that Sinatra sound. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And me and Trish love that.
That's my favorite.
I didn't know that.
Oh, I listen to that on Spotify all the time. One of my go-to channels, Rat Pack.
Okay, so we do the Rat Pack guys come and do a 2-hour gig, and it's their practice night, really, and they practice at a local bar here. And it's a 16-piece brass with a piano, and then they have a singer as well. And so we like a bit of everything, we like a bit of all sorts. Mm-hmm. There's a cool guy here called, how weird, he's called Rick Merrill. That's not a joke. He's called Rick Merrill.
Not the one we know.
Not the one we know. This guy is a musician, and we go listen to Rick, and occasionally he's just moved over to Clearwater, but he's another one who had a brilliant place here called Merrill's, and we go listen to a band there every weekend. So that's another reason we love it here so much.
It sounds like that you're not really retirement, but it sounds like it's almost semi-retirement, and particularly that you can just, chill whenever you want, or you can work as you want, and then go down to international airport and fly wherever you need to go to conventions to be a dealer. So, kind of the best of all worlds right there.
That was kind of the plan, but sometimes I feel like I work, I don't know, it's crazy sometimes because you're trying to get things ready for the next job all the time. Does that make sense?
No, exactly. It does make sense, and particularly as a dealer because of the things you have of your own making, and Bob Swadling's and others that I would think would be, you're always making stuff and keeping busy. And I want to get into that in just a second then also, but it started as JB Magic, it still is JB Magic, and Mark Mason. The letters don't even match up. What does that come from?
So we how do I describe what we had? Do you know what Spencer's Gifts is? Do you know what that is?
Sure, I know Spencer's, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when I first met Tricia, she had she had a B&B in Blackpool. That's how I met Tricia. She had a bed and breakfast, 16 bedrooms. Mm-hmm. And eventually she grew tired of that, and I said, let's open a little, like a joke shop, jokes and novelties. It would be nearer a Spencer's, certainly not a magic shop.
Right, gotcha.
I don't want you to think of a magic shop.
It's kind of a novelty shop with a lot of fun little things. Yeah.
Yeah, so we opened this thing called The Joke Box.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I was doing a few magic tricks, and I started to, that was in 1988, Scott, I started to demonstrate a few magic tricks, and they started to do quite well, just Svengalis and what you call nickels to dimes and blank decks, and so we started to do a little bit of that, and then we put a few more magic tricks in there, and we changed it to, what did we do first? We changed it to, we didn't go straight to JB Magic. We were the Joke Box, and then we went to, Joke Box Magic. Mm-hmm. So we had jokes and magic. Then we bought a new shop and moved. Did you ever come to any of my shops?
None of the brick and mortars, no.
So I had quite a big magic shop, and when we moved there in 2000, we said, let's not sell any more curly wigs and dressing up stuff and clown shoes, and we'll just sell magic tricks. And that's when we were going to change it to Mark Mason's Magic then. And I said, why? JB Magic's okay, let's just leave it at JB Magic. Of course, I tell everybody now it's James Bond Magic.
I like that.
Only as a joke, and they go, oh, wow. I go, look, have you seen these gimmicks? This is James Bond gimmicks.
Exactly.
But I said, then I always say, no, it's not really. It was just, I felt the name was lucky. We started with literally, we borrowed $500. That's true, by the way. We borrowed $500. I'd opened this silly little thing, and it turned into something really good. And I said we should keep JB somewhere, and so we ended up with JB Magic. Was
it around the Winter Garden, anywhere down there, or just over by the shore, or whereabouts?
Do you know where Central Pier is?
I do, actually. Isn't that where the...
We have 3 piers in Blackpool, don't we? We have the North Pier, the Central Pier, and the South Pier.
Yeah.
So it was in the Central Pier region, 1 street back.
Okay.
Down. There's a pub called the Manchester Pub. Mm-hmm. All the English guys, if anyone's listening to this, the Scottish, the Irish guys, they all used to come. When at Blackpool Magic Convention on Monday, you had to line up outside for an hour to get in.
Wow.
You had to stand outside for an hour to get in the shop.
Because there were so many people who had come in for the convention, but they also wanted to come to the shop, and there was only so much room there to get in.
We had our own taxi rank. We had our own taxi rank for the day. Taxis would just pull up, and there were hundreds of people trying to get into this crazy little shop. But we carried a vast range of magic. We had a really nice range. We had a proper section for a children's room. We had a mentalism section, close-up, full books. Back then it was DVDs more than streaming. Because I closed in 2010. People don't realize it's already 10 years ago.
Wow. Now, of course, you, I assume, were one of the dealers on the floor or in the rafters then at Blackpool during the convention.
No.
No? Oh, so that's why people were coming to see you, because you were not. I got you.
Yeah, I didn't have a booth back then, and I can't remember the first year I ever went. I think it was, I can't remember. It was after I closed, so 11, 12. I've only been to 8 or 9 Blackpools, maybe 10 now as a dealer. So we used to get the early, but we get a lot of Europeans, don't we, a lot of Italians, French, Germans, the Swedish. They all used to come in on the Wednesday and Thursday, and then on Monday it was just crazy. It was great.
So then you, in 2010 is when you closed that, and that's when you moved full time to the U.S.?
Yeah, I was coming backwards and forwards quite a bit. Started doing the magic circuit here. As you know, I'd turn up at Texas AOM, TAOM, and I'd do a few others, and they were going really well. And to be honest, I was like the new kid on the block then, wasn't I? Nobody knew who I was or what I did. And Columbus, Ohio, I went every year. And then I started to get some real proper shows here, as in magic shows. And I went, I think maybe we should go see, live here for a while. And so we came over, and obviously I already told you we're only ever going to come to Florida. It's a little bit hot in the summer, but the winter's great here. The winters are beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Well, the summertime is when they have conventions, when you're going to be traveling and probably not spend so much time in Florida, which is probably another reason that Trish comes with you. She doesn't want to stay down there.
That was literally the plan. That really was the plan. We said, and we can always travel. And I mean, there is the crazy hot one, isn't there? There's August. Magic Live is hot, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, they're not that bad, really. I like leaving in the summer, and that's, we've been here 10 years now, and I've been doing that circuit a while, and then I jumped into the road shows with Paul Richards. I don't know if you know, but me and Paul are really good friends.
Yes, because Paul used to have Elmwood Magic, and then he'd sold things to Penguin, then eventually took it back himself, I think, because he has his own original ideas that he markets as well.
That's almost it in a nutshell. You just said exactly what I was going to sell. Paul sold to Penguin and then came to me and said, do you fancy trying this where we go from city to city? And I've been doing those a lot, and I love doing those. I mean...
That's the Real Magic Roadshow, is that what that is?
The Real Magic Roadshow. It's not the Penguin Magic
Max.
X or Magic Max. That's a different thing. The Roadshow is basically Dirk Losander, Christian Schenk, Chris Smith, me, and Paul Richards. But we do a lot of them in Europe as well. We don't just do them in England. We do them all over the place.
Oh. And that's just, as I recall, a one-day thing also, as opposed to the Penguin Max has kind of gotten to be a mini convention, being a Friday and Saturday night, kind of a day and a half type of an event.
Correct. Still one day. So last year we did 9 in Europe. We went from Amsterdam to Belgium, Belgium to Paris, Paris to Zurich, Zurich to Munich, Munich into Austria. It was terrific. We're 5 pretty good friends as well. We get on great, and that helps.
Do you have any issues with the customs or trying to get in and out? The reason I'm asking is because I remember some years ago, the International Brotherhood of Magicians once had a convention that was in Canada, and it was a real nightmare. It seemed like a lot of people had some problems of trying to cross the border, particularly dealers, and trying to get their stuff back and forth. And then once we got there, apparently that there was a strike and in the hotels, and so the maid service and everything and maintenance was all on strike, and there were all kinds of issues with the hotel. That's aside from that. But my point is, that was a long time ago, and I'm just wondering if regulations have let up such that it's easier to get things in and out when you're doing a lot of European countries like that.
Canada's notoriously difficult, isn't it? Canada's really tough. The good thing about doing Europe is when you land in, let's just say, France, once you clear customs in France, to go into Spain, there is no border control. You don't show anybody a passport.
Okay.
To drive into Italy, you don't show anyone a passport. It just says, hello, welcome to Italy, into Germany, so you can go anywhere you like. Now, the other advantage I have, and it's a huge advantage for me, is I am English and I still pay into the English system. I'm allowed to work anywhere in Europe. Now, hang on, let me just finish. We've just had this Brexit crazy thing, and so that could change everything, Scott.
Ooh, that's true. But
as of this moment, I can go work in Germany and tell the English government that I worked and I made €3,000 and and that is legal. I'm not doing anything illegal. Right. Now, a lot of people, I guess, fly their stock in and pay the duty on it. They pay the import duty, and really that's the best way. But I always have trouble with Canada as well. It's tough. They ask a million questions in Canada.
I didn't know. I was curious about how countries would differ, but apparently Canada's worse. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, but if you drive from, let's just say, 2 bordering countries, Germany into France, there's no border control. There isn't a man.
There used to be. When I first traveled, and that was 1972, and I had to show my passport, and they had a guard gate at all roads going from, I don't care, from Belgium to Luxembourg, wherever you were going to be traveling between countries. You have to, because I remember trying to get from Italy into, I think, Monaco, and I was driving a Volkswagen, and the muffler had gone out, and they wouldn't let me in until I got the muffler fixed. It was on a Sunday. It's a long story. It's funny. But nevertheless, it used to be you could not travel the way you can today.
Well, think about it. We're called the European Union Community. That's what it is, the EC. So it's one community. You can go anywhere you like, really. The problem, a big part of this Brexit thing, and I'm not getting into politics, is border control. A big part of it is, will English people just be allowed to go where they like now? Can we just go where we like? And that's a big part of what they're trying to hammer out, going into Ireland, coming out of Ireland. That's a massive part of what they're how they call it a Brexit deal or not a deal? I don't know if you're following any of this.
Not closely, no. So what's the deal?
So that we can leave Brexit with no deal, or we can leave Brexit with the best deal we can get. And they're trying to hammer out a deal, and all those things are a part of the deal. Will we just be able to go where we like? Can we fish? Can we fish in the ocean, or does that belong to part of that? Does that belong to Spain now? Are we allowed to get those fish? It's weird, really, when you think of all those small issues, which are massive, really. But we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, with getting off the politic thing, basically, once you're in and you've got your stock in there, you can travel from. The only one that changes is Switzerland. Switzerland is not a part of the EEC, so you can't just go into Switzerland. There's a man. You have to go through custom control and say where you're going and what you're doing.
And then you have to claim whatever you're bringing in and telling them what you're doing, and they could turn you around.
They could turn you around, yeah. They could turn you around. I mean, You can just say you're going on vacation to have a lovely time, but, I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying you could say that, couldn't you?
I once had I work with a lot of lecturers, as you know, and bringing them on tour, and had a fellow who was coming over from, and I don't remember what country, someplace in Europe, and when he came over into the New York, in LaGuardia, they asked why I was here, and he said, well, I'm here proudly, and legally. He said, I'm, doing a lecture tour. He said, I'm a magician. He said, really? So what are you going to be doing? Well, I'm going to be, teaching people and doing a lecture. And long story short, they said, no, you haven't got the right proper papers. Said, you're on the next flight out. He had to turn around and go right back home that same day and to cancel the whole tour.
And I won't say names neither, but I know of at least two who've had the same problem. Once you say you're earning money here,
mm-hmm.
you're working, they go, hang on a minute now, have you got the proper documents?
Right.
To earn money here. We're not telling you you're not allowed to, but have you gone through the right channel, basically? And nearly everybody hasn't. They've just jumped on a plane and said, hey, America, the land of the free. This is going to be great, right?
Yeah, that's the American dream. Going back to your brick and mortar shop that you had then also at JB, I was also about to say something about Tam Shepard's.
Yeah, that was Roy Walton, though. You know that, right?
I know Roy, yes, of course. And I had visited his shop. Nothing like yours. From what you were saying, yours must have been massive, and his was just the magic shop that was everybody came to see him also, but it was
a guy. Massive might be the wrong word, but yeah, it was a proper size. It was decent and much bigger than Tam Shepard's. Yeah, I've been in there many times over the years, and a totally different type of thing. I actually had an electronic, like a jeweler's, I had an electronic buzzer. You couldn't just walk in the shop.
Oh, okay. So you had to be let in.
I had to let you in. We used to get club days where an entire club would come. The whole Leicester Magic Circle would come. The whole Bradford, whole 30, 40 guys. They'd bring their wives. It's Blackpool. They'd go shopping, do whatever, and the guys would spend the entire day in the shop.
It wasn't like they had a meeting there. They were just coming as a group. Okay,
as a group. And we had 5 full-time demonstrators. I mean, it was a real proper... Everyone who worked for me are full-time pro magicians now. All of them are all really great pros. Mark James, I don't know if you know Mark.
I do know Mark, yes. Yeah, I tried to put together a tour for him one time, and he had to, as we started getting into it, he said, I just got booked for like 2 years of cruise ships and can't do it now. So, yeah.
Well, Mark worked for me. Darren Robinson, terrific guy, worked for me. Full-time pro, wedding magician, really, really great. Paul Roberts worked with me. Mark Southworth, they're all magicians. So everyone could hold a conversation. They all had knowledge. And hopefully, I'm not making out I'm great or anything, but I taught them all properly. They were all under my guidance.
Mm-hmm.
They knew, what to say, what not to say. And they were a great bunch of guys, really. It was a really good atmosphere. We didn't close down for any other reason than I wanted to come and try living in America. We didn't close unsuccessfully. In fact, we were doing great. We just decided to call it a day, really. And I owned the building and I owned the apartment above, and we sold everything and came to live here.
So brick and mortar magic shops, I guess, depending on how they're run and who owns it, are still thriving to a degree in the UK as far as you know?
I thought I was going to... It's hard to answer that for everyone else. I thought there was going to be a downturn in 2010. I thought this is going more and more online, more and more, that type of avenue, really. And I thought it was the right time to leave. But, I mean, Alakazam is definitely a bricks and mortar. Peter Nardi, very good friend of mine, and so on. And there are many others. Davenport's have just closed down, I think, haven't they? I don't know what will happen to Tam Shepard's. I mean, I really don't, because they went there to see Roy, really.
Of course.
Roy was like a legend.
That's right. I was going to say, why did they call it? Was it owned by a guy named Tam Shepard? I mean, or...
I don't know. We'd have to ask one of the Scottish Glasgow guys, but I can tell you it's been Tam Shepard's all my life, as long as I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't just suddenly change overnight, sort of thing. It was, so I'm guessing Tam Shepard was the owner before, but we'd have to ask one of the local Glasgow guys.
Yeah, Peter McClanahan or
the older guys. Paul Wilson would know, I bet, as well. Paul would probably know.
Right. So Yeah, because I know that over here, again, brick and mortar shops have slowly been closing and going to online. It's been, tougher and tougher for them, as well as trying to even make it as an online shop, because it is so much easier to have an online shop. And there are a lot of companies that have opened just as online, never ever once having a brick and mortar presence, if you will. And so there's more competition, I'm saying, with online than what there probably was with brick and mortar days, today.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm not old school, 88, but back in my day, it was you sent out a paper catalogue. They could see it. I don't know if you know one claim to fame of mine. I was the first person to put videos online of magic.
I did not know that.
Yeah, in 91, I think. It was a few months before Hank Lee followed me. And I had a guy who was a really good friend of mine called Paul Fernley, nothing to do with magic. And he built me a little website to sell magic tricks. And I said, why can't we have where you can watch me do them? This is how old it is. He's going, well, I don't think I can do that. And I went, can't you write something that you had to upload them? It took Scott like 8 minutes, to watch. I was the first guy. And then about 3 or 4 months later over here, which is why my website is JBTV, television.
Oh, okay.
I could have called it I own JB Magic. Right now I own Mark Mason Magic. I own markmasonmagic.com, markmasonmagic.com. I own a dozen websites, more probably. But I said, let's call it JBTV, JB Television. And I called the website JBTV because we put these 10 video clips on, and it was horrendous, really, compared to today. But that was why we were JBTV, and I saw it going down that avenue online, and just decided, I felt bad for the guys, really. They were with me a long time, especially Darren. Darren was with me a long time. And I said, listen, guys, I gave them all several months. I didn't just say we're calling it a day next Thursday. And I said, I just think that's the way it's going, really, the way it's going online now. I think, without a doubt, I'm right. Online presence is massive here, isn't it? It's huge. Penguin and Vanishing Ink, and these guys they're machines at this.
Right, yeah. They're very good. It reminds me, sometimes you think that it's the right time, and you might be right or wrong, because when I was talking with Denny Haney some years ago, when he had opened up his first magic shop, the reason he did that is because he was pretty much the king as far as magicians go on the college circuit and traveling around doing college shows, and he felt like that he was kind of retiring, if you will, on top. There's like, I feel like that this is a bell curve and it's getting ready to head down, and now's a good time to open up a magic shop. And it was just the opposite. It was kind of like, well, it wasn't really, the magic shop it flourished, did very well enough that he thought I should open one in Las Vegas, which he later regretted. But the point was, he said, no, that there were still more legs, there were still more things I could have done and been successful. I should have ridden that out, another decade at least, in the college circuit, because he was still doing well. But you never know, about.
I definitely felt like that with what we did. Me and Trish sat down and over a period of time and said, we've ridden this wave really hard, and I can't see us doing more in the bricks and mortar. And I did a lot of smart things back in the day as well, things nobody had heard of. I'd send out a DVD to a magic club, like Houston Magic Club, your club. I'd send every single member one for free, so I only had to post it to the president, and the president would hand out 62 of them at the next meeting. And they'd all put the DVD in, and they'd all link to the website, or to get them in the shop. So I was doing things that I thought no one else was doing as well. And the club meetings were brilliant. I'd invite the whole club up, and they'd all hang out the whole day. And
pretty smart.
And it was, but I still felt like we were going more to online eventually.
Yeah. Now, at that time, then, Mark, were you still selling just things that you were buying wholesale from someone else, or were you creating at that time?
We had a few things that I was involved in creating, and I was more buying other people's stuff, but that started to grow in around 90, around 92, 93. We started to buy some rights from other people, and And back then, tricks lasted a long time, like Note Torn and Restored newspaper. It lasted a year. It didn't last 3 weeks. And that's what the internet does. It drives new magic, doesn't it? New. Whereas in a shop or via a catalogue, things would last a year or more, So, we were doing some of our own stuff, but yeah, without doubt, we were buying stuff in, and we were buying stuff from America as well. So we were like having things no one else had at that time.
I would think that would be expensive also, just the shipping. I know when we're sending things over to the UK, just as you would here, that the shipping is obviously fairly expensive, sometimes more than what the retail cost is of some of the items. So it's better, obviously, to buy a few more. Plus, again, that you're buying then in bulk, but then you did have something that was different because everyone else kind of felt the same way. I'm sure that I don't want to pay that extra, but you were doing that because you had a customer
we were
base.
filling a box up and we were, filling as much as we could in a box and just dimming it out. Dim out means dimensional freight rather than what it weighs. You go on the size. I love freight, by the way. I like shipping and weight and things, and we just fill a whole box up. And so when it dims out, you'll put an extra couple of 100 silks in because they were free then. They didn't cost anything other than the cost of the silks, thumb tips or whatever it may be. And we started bringing things in and really got popular. We had a really good ride from 2000, certainly 97 to 2009-10. We did great. Of course, 2009-10 was also the collapse for everybody, wasn't it? Remember that was the banking financial crisis. So I thought maybe this is the time to jump ship. I already had a house in Florida. Between me and you, I'd bought a house. From the shop in Blackpool, I'd bought a house in Florida already. We got this property there that we should go live there maybe, and that's how we ended up here.
So when did you meet Bob Swadling? Had you been longtime friends?
No, I knew of Bob. He's a little bit of a legend in England, isn't he? He's a little bit of a famous guy, really. He's a big name in the UK, and I knew of him, and I got to meet him a couple of times and then really started to get close. When was the Magic Circle centenary? Can you remember that convention?
2005, I believe.
I think you might be right. I really got talking to him a lot then. And then after that, not long after that, when was the first IBM SAM joint?
Ooh, boy. Wasn't long after that, maybe 7?
Correct. Like. And we really got to know each other quite well then. And Bob had a trick called, well, it wasn't called that then, I named it. It was called it Blind Spot, and it was Bob's coin in bottle. And I said to him, I'd love to market that. And that was like I'd almost call it a trial item, really, to see how we gelled. Yeah. And we just hit it off. I mean, I don't know why we hit it off. I'm like the rough, tough market trader guy, and he's a real rocket scientist. He's a genius, really. And I'm not, but we just seem to hit it off well. We love the same thing. We have the same passions, and we love figuring out problems, and he's helped me so much over the years with methods and how things work. And so I represent his line of magic as well, and we've done a lot of things together. I spoke to him yesterday. I speak to him almost all the time. I check up on him every few days and make sure him and Val are okay. And that's how I met him just before that at the Magic. There's a Magic Dealers Day in London, and I got to know him a little bit there, and then got to know him a bit more at the Circular Day, and then really got to know him well about 13, 14 years ago now. Time goes on by fast. And he made a few of my ideas become real as well. I said, I've got some ideas, and he's a brilliant machinist, and then I bought Double Deception, which I still call his famous trick. I bought rights to the magnetic locking flipper.
It's one of my favorite effects. That is brilliant.
And he knows it's one of my all-time favorite things, and I approached him about buying the rights, and he said to me, everybody makes it. And I went, I know, but I'd like to buy the rights or pay you a royalty or whatever you want me to do. And I think that had a lot of bearing on our friendship, because I think he said to me after, you could have just made them, really. And I said, yeah, but it's not the right way to go about things. And I think that really concreted that he knew I was a genuine guy and want to do the the job right if I can. And we became really, really good friends, and he's a super guy, really, and so smart, so clever. Sometimes he tells me things and I don't want to hear it, because he won't just say I'm doing a good thing if I'm not. If the method isn't great, he'll go, I wouldn't do it like that, and we'll start again. But I think you need that type of person in your life.
Yeah, I agree. And it sounds like that it's been a good partnership between the two of you then as well. Is he living in Florida, or does he have a place and come back and forth, or does he just stay with you when he comes to visit?
No, he lives here. Of all the weird things, I mean, life can be so weird. They have two daughters, but the one daughter I'm going to talk about is called Kay Swadling. And Kay was quite a big magician in England, TV. She was a female magician who really did well. But I don't know the whole story exactly, but she ended up living in Boston with her husband.
Yeah.
And they had a magic shop called Fun Usual, which is a great name. Fun Usual. Mm-hmm. A magic and novelty and whatever. But they ended up moving down to Florida, and her husband became ill. He's still alive, but he became ill while she was going to have her twins. They've got twin girls. So I can tell you how long it is ago, because they're 13 or 14 now. They're not little kids.
Yeah.
And Bob and Val thought Jay is called really might pass away, but he didn't. And they said we should go live near a Kay and support and look after the children if they need anything. And he picked a town 30 minutes drive from me. It's called Sanford, and I go there all the time. I go almost every week.
What a coincidence.
And that's how Bob and Val ended up here. They were supporting their daughter, and as it happened, it turned out better than they thought it was going to turn out. And they ended up here, and he only lives 30 minutes from me, so I can go down there and say, can you help me make a jig, or I can't get this, or I can't machine this, and he helps me all the time. He's helped me with so many things. I quote him all the time because he helps me with so many things. And a great magician as well, a really good magician.
Is he performing much at all, or just creating now?
Yeah, he's mainly creating now, but he still does do the odd thing. I know he does some stuff at church occasionally, and I know they do stuff if they have charity. And there's a thing down here on a Monday night that Eric Olson runs, the Wizards.
Oh, sure. Wizards. Mm-hmm.
And every now and then I know he gets up and does a little piece there and stuff, and he loves it. He loves performing more than anything, really. He loves it, but he helps me create a lot of things and helps me with ideas, and especially if I can't quite fit the puzzle together, he'll say, you could have done this. And my go-to guy for a long time was Pat Page. Pat, I would drop him a message and ask him if he'd seen anything like it, or does he know anything. And Pat would always tell me this is similar to this or this. And he's great for that as well, Bob, because he's an avid reader and historical guy, really. And I'll say, have you ever seen this? And he'll go, let me look this up. And he'll say a guy in 1953. So he's brilliant for that as well. I like that he can help me with that stuff.
Yeah, it's a great loss to have not have Pat around. There are very few people, I think, within our profession in our lifetimes that had that knowledge like Pat or Johnny Thompson, Ali Bongo, and some people who.
Yeah, Johnny Thompson was another, but I wasn't close to Johnny Thompson. He wasn't somebody I would ever call, or he'd come to the booth and we'd chit chat, but he wasn't a guy I could go to. Whereas Pat always said to me, Mark, if I can help you with something, and he'd say, there was a guy called Percy Smith who did that in 1982, and it was and usually he was bang on, and then I could chase the method then, the method. Another guy who's great is Michael Webber. I should mention Michael because Michael, his knowledge is phenomenal.
Agreed. In everything. He seems to specialize now in mentalism, but then he's also just a consultant, I know, for Broadway, as well as Jim Steinmeier, and he used to work with Ricky Jay, I guess. They were partners. He
absolutely did, mm-hmm. and I'd show him a trick at Blackpool or whatever, and he'd go, oh, this is like so-and-so, or you could have done this, and that's great to have those guys who have some depth of knowledge. I mean, I'm an avid reader as well, but you can only do so much. These guys literally saw somebody do a trick similar, Pat could go way back, Pat had a real big history, so he was great. But without a doubt, I use Bob for that as well. Without a doubt, Bob Swadling I use for that.
Now, does Bob and you both, you both have a some sort of a machine shop or a place, room, or that you're
Yeah, so
building?
Bob has a proper machine shop area with lathes and milling and everything, and I have more of a clean shop. So I do have some punchers and dies and some tools and a couple of drill presses, but mainly my area is cleaner because I do all the final putting together, whereas Bob's area, there really is lathes and machines, and I go down there and work with Bob as well. You know, I go and spend a day with Bob and work with Bob, and he's taught me a lot of stuff on machining and different stuff and expanding, and so it's been brilliant for me. I like the knowledge. I like puzzles, and I like the knowledge as well.
I like your innovations and your marketing and the way that you handle things then as well. For an example, that I remember opening up one of the CDs to a trick I bought from you one time, and inside of it was another trick. Basically, it was the packaging, and if you turn it inside out, then that's a CD package or envelope for another trick. So it's kind of good marketing, too, in a way.
It's great marketing, and the real idea behind that was space. Scott, when you buy 5,000 pieces of packaging, which is our usual buy, 2,500 or 5,000, that's what I normally buy. That obviously, when you've got 70 items, that's a lot. But if everything's on the other side, you've halved your space needed to hold your packaging, haven't you?
Right. Brilliant.
When they open it, they go, oh, there's a trick here called Solo. I wonder what that does. And every now and then I still get an email saying, I only bought that because it was on the other side of something else I bought. So I go, man, that wasn't a bad idea, right?
Yeah, that turned out to be great in more ways than one.
It's brilliant. Yeah,
would you
really
say,
has been good.
so that double deception, that is one of Bob's best-selling tricks. What would you say is one of yours?
Ooh, wow. Something I actually invented or something I just marketed?
Something that you invented, like shoot or shoot whatever.
Yeah, shoot was good. Solo was massive.
What was explain the
was massive.
For those who don't know, explain what shoot is and also what solo is. Explain the effect.
Solo is a sign card to box. It vanishes in between two cards with a hole, like point of departure, but a totally different method. So someone selects a card, it goes in between two cards with a hole, it visually vanishes, and their sign card is in the box. That was a massive seller. I mean, I don't know the exact number. We changed the system, and I do wish I would have brought forward my system. I'm on about my back office system now. Definitely over 20,000 sold. I would guess it's nearer 30,000 solos. Wow. without a doubt. Really, really good. My sign card to sealed deck, it was massive as well. Really, really sold a lot of those. I have a trick called 21. I started that elastic. Well, I don't know what you want to call it. Everybody ties everything with elastic now, but back in the early 90s, I had an idea with elastic thread to make vanish, and Solo uses elastic thread, and so does 21. But it seems so normal now, Scott, but that was like nobody had seen it before. When something visually vanished in front of your eyes, I used to get emails going, it doesn't really do that, right? And I used to go, yeah, of course it does that. And they go, well, I just don't. And then obviously everybody ties everything together now. But I had a trick called 21, which was 2 9s that turn into 2 10s that turn into 21 blackjack. 21. It could be tens of thousands. We sold thousands and thousands and thousands of them.
When you come up with an idea, I'm curious as to your creative muse, I guess. Is there something in which you think about, wake up in the middle of the night and write down ideas, or you wake up in the morning, or you fiddle with something, or how do you come up with this?
It's a bit different for me every time. Sometimes I think of the effect. So let's just say, how can I bend a spoon? I've just made that up. Yeah. So that's the effect, isn't it? And then I think of a method to go with that effect. And then other times I think of a method. I think I could easily make a card vanish if I had an overlap card. an overlap card, for the guys who don't know, is a misprinted card. I'm just saying anything. I'm making this up. I could make that vanish by elastic thread, and then that would be the method. What would the effect be? But I tend to always go for the effect if I can. How can I make a card appear in a card case? And then I try and think of the method for that. And then I start on the history, literally online, Googling what methods have been done before. Then I'll go see Bob, or I'll go see, or I'll ring someone, or I'll do a Google, or like I said, I would have called Pat Page or somebody. Like this year, it isn't released yet. I have a signed card to sealed envelope. Now, obviously, there's been cards to envelopes before. So I have to start doing the history of, has this been done before? And obviously it hasn't, because I've spent the last year putting it together. So that's what I tend to do. I tend to go for the effects and then figure out a method of how to create that.
And when you're putting these things out, after you've been working on them for however long, whether it's a year or 5 years or 6 months or whatever, I know, like, for an example, the Tenyo at the first of the year will say, here are new releases for 2020, whatever, and here will be a dozen things. And then do you have a release date like that, or as they come out, just like this is new, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so my goal is to get 3 items. Sometimes it's only 2, but if I can get 3, I'm absolutely delighted. And I soft release all 3 at Blackpool.
Oh, okay.
And that gives me a chance to, first of all, talking as a demonstrator, tweak the dem. You've never demmed them for anyone, really, only for Bob, for Tricia, you haven't done them over and over and over with angles. And so that gives me a chance to tweak the dem. First and foremost, I go, that didn't dem so good. I need to change that. Dem as in demonstrate. Sorry,
right.
I talk to you just because I know that you know what I mean. And then also, I might think, I could change the strength of that magnet, or that doesn't need to have a blue back, or that could be. And then I release those 3 tricks over the year. I save 1 for near Christmas, because it's a good time to release something. I tend to release 1 in March or April. I like those months. March is not great anymore because I do the road shows usually in March. So April is good because usually in April I just have the 4Fs, and I don't always go to the 4Fs. I go to most, but not all of them. And then I release 1 in the summer, and they're usually that's how I release the 3 tricks.
Speaking of the 4F, by the way, in 2020 that you were supposed to have been the guest of honor for the 50th, which was a seminal event, certainly, and that, like a lot of other conventions, was canceled. And so they've just kind of put that, I guess, into 2021. So just kind of, I guess, next year in 21 that you will be that person. When Obi had notified you, were you surprised, or did they line you up like years in advance, or how were you notified, and how far in advance did you know?
I do believe he still does the same system. He releases 5 at a time, I do believe. So let's start with notification. He notified, this is what he did to me. He notified me and asked me if I'd like to be guest of honor at the 2020, and that was notified in 2016. And then they tell you who the next 5 are going to be in 2016. But was I surprised, to say the least? It's so funny because when I first started doing this, I'd read things about 4F and these guys and Eddie Fector, and you have to be invited, and they're all amazing. And I thought, I wonder how he'd go to that. Not guest of honor, just go to it. And he invited me, funny enough, the year Pat Page was guest of honor, which I do believe, I might say this wrong, and that might be 03 or 06. And I performed, and I did really well. And then when he asked me, I sent him an email. You can ask him, I'm not making this up, going, are you sure you want me to do it? I said, there's really good guy. And he went, no, you're a pretty good magician. You should be. And I went, I don't know, Obi. But anyway, obviously, I was over the moon to be asked. And yeah, it is a shame it isn't going to be this year. But it's going to roll over. It's not all doom and gloom. It's going to roll over, and it will happen.
Right.
And I will be absolutely over the moon to be guest of honor. I think I have to do a little lecture or a 1-hour speech or something. But other than that, it's really sitting and watching magic for 3 or 4 days. Well, that can't be too bad, can it?
Well, in the old days, it used to be, of course, that they would have a roast and a proper roast, meaning that it was maybe some embarrassing things and funny things that they would give you.
It's a soft roast now, isn't it?
Very much so, yes.
It's a soft roast. And I had a message from, I can't remember if it was Mr. Brown or Steve or Bargetzi. I can't remember. They said, is there anything that would upset you or we're not allowed to say? And I just said, you can say anything. Say absolutely anything. And they went, are you sure? And I went, anything. I'm fine with it. So I can tell by that email when they must ask, will anything offend you? Would you be upset by things? So I think the roast is a roast, but it's kind of, I call it a soft roast.
Yeah. They had those as very much an old boys club when it was, before there were women, coming. And I remember one, I think it was the first one I had attended, might have been in '85, with Tom Mullica. And boy, they didn't hold anything back.
That's a famous roast, right?
Yeah,
everyone talks about the Tom Mullica roast. They hammered him, right?
They did. And I remember when he finally, it was his turn to talk, and he said, well, for those of you who didn't know I was gay, at least you do now. The word is out. Because they just hammered him.
Yeah, it's a kind of a famous one. Lots of people say it's not like Tom Mullica, It's like football, NFL. I love American football. And everyone I speak to here, all my friends are old school. They go, this is not even football. It's not like the old days, when anything was allowed. This is soft football. Yeah. I don't know if that's true because it's still hard hitting, but you're right. It's different now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what changed all that was when Gary Willett came in as the guest of honor, and Obi was saying, okay, that I think Gary was in Canada was like chief counsel, I believe, or something to the president, or he was anyhow had an high office of some sort. And so they were saying that we're going to be, instead of a roast, this is going to be an honor in which we're going to be honoring him and thanking him for what he's done with the Cameron Academy and television specials and what all that he's done in his life, that he is being honored. So everybody hold off this year, that it will not be something that will be any rude and crude roast. And so that was the beginning. That was beginning of the soft roast, I guess, basically.
Yeah, I call it a soft roast as well. And Steve Bargetzi and Rick Merrill do a brilliant job. They're super funny. They're brilliant.
Yeah, that's true. Well, listen, I really do appreciate the time that you've given me to talk here, and it's always fun to chat with you. And you're always one of the busiest guys. Whenever that I'm at a convention, obviously you have the longest lines. And I don't care whether it's at the regional convention here for the Texas Association of Magicians, or whether I'm in FISM and wherever. It seems like that sometimes they put you intentionally, I believe, in the corner to try to draw traffic back to you, to kind of through the room, because they know that people are going to be coming over to the JB Magic booth,
Yeah, I think maybe they do sometimes, but, it is what it is, right?
And you do very well, and you are much loved, and we thank you very much for all the great ideas and products that you've come out with, not just Bob Swadling's, but I know other guys who have given you their things. And so that's another question, I guess, before I close over here, is that whenever that you do have other people's items, do you solicit these? And if people have ideas, how do they get in touch with you if they want to?
They nearly always get in touch with me. I don't think I've ever solicited an idea. They drop me an email, or they send me a message, or they Facebook me saying, hey, especially if it's my type of gimmick and it fits my line. Mm-hmm. I have a certain thing, I guess, when you look at my line, they're not similar tricks, but they kind of fit, you know what I mean? I'm not looking for a trick in a suitcase or a clock, or it just doesn't fit my line. There's nothing wrong with those tricks. They just don't fit me. So occasionally someone will get in touch, and sometimes, I won't lie, they have to have an answer that I just don't love it. It's not for me. It's too long a dem, but I love it when I come across something great and I can mark it, and they love it because they get to see their thing, don't they? Their idea come to reality, and sometimes their idea has to be changed a bit and tweaked a bit, and I go, that don't quite work, and you couldn't mass produce them like this.
So how do people get in touch with you if they want to offer an idea to see?
They can always find me. They can drop me an email at jbm jbmmarkmason@aol.com. That's jbmmarkmason@aol.com. Or my website is www.jbtvusa.com. And drop me a line anytime, or Facebook me, just type in Mark Mason Magic. And I would love to hear from anyone with a brilliant idea. I love putting things out there. Those things are in history forever. They're done. You can't change it. It's out there. And I think there's brilliant ideas out there. And there's so many creative guys and women out there with brilliant ideas. And so we have a little bit of everything. You know, we make cards and coins and leather. And so we can do almost anything.
Since Jerry O'Connell has passed, and I know that Craig Dixon was selling his leather goods, you mentioned leather, you make wallets and things like that as well?
I do, but not those items. They're owned by Prop Dog now. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Prop Dog bought the O'Connell line.
Okay.
Dave Bonsall is his name. He bought but I've made some wallets for years and years and years, and I have a couple of guys. I work a little bit with Tony Miller. We've got a brilliant item out right now. Really now, it's hotter than hot, and that's called the No Choice wallet. If anybody wants to take a look and have a look, fantastic item. So me and Tony designed that between us, and I came up with a routine, and so we do a little bit of everything.
That sounds great. Well, so as we close, that the name of my podcast is called The Magic Word, and so I always like to ask my guests what their philosophy of life is. You know, what is it you live by? What's your, not necessarily a word, I don't mean like a magic word like abracadabra, but what would be your magic word or phrase?
If they like you, it doesn't matter what you do. If they don't like you, it doesn't matter what you do. It's all about you, really. If you've got no connection, no people skills, it doesn't matter what you do. It really doesn't. It's hard to win people over all the time. That people skills are the number one skill. If they like you, it doesn't matter what tricks you do. It makes no difference. Right,
because it is all about you whenever it comes down to that, and your relationship of interacting to the audience, and well, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate your time. It's been a wonderful chat.
You're welcome, my friend, and look after yourself, and best wishes to you.
Thanks to you and Trish also. So for the Magic Word Podcast, that was Mark Mason with JB Magic. This is Scotty out. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you being on this week's episode, and I also thank all the listeners for tuning in and listening again from week to week. I know there are a lot of other streaming broadcasts, podcasts, and things to view and listen to, but I appreciate you coming back and your support and your commitment to helping make this podcast one of the best in the world. So thank you, guys. I appreciate that. And also, if you could help me further by actually subscribing to our pod letter, that way you kind of keep up to date on what's going on from week to week. If you go to themagicwordpodcast.com, you should see a tab there where that you can subscribe, or that you might even have a pop-up that will say subscribe to our pod letter. Also, one thing that I really would like to do is I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel. I have about 600 subscribers, but I need 1,000 subscribers before I can actually record and do live videos there. So that's something I think I'd like to do in the future, but I can't do any live videos until I have those 1,000 subscribers. So you could help a lot if you'll just go to the YouTube channel and type in Scott Wells or Scott Wells Magic, and you'll be able to see how that you can subscribe. Please do. Nothing to it. That'd be great, and you would help a lot. Well, this is the first week in which that we have given some money to a magician in need, to the Magician's Relief Project. And so I want to thank those who are donating, and also congratulations to the person who was a recipient here for this week. If any of you are interested or have some financial means that you would like to donate, then please contact me. That's Scott at themagicwordpodcast.com, and I will let you know how that you can put some money towards a magician who could use some relief. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember that it's really all about you, and that is how you connect with your audience. So be a very interesting individual and try to connect with your audience. This is Scotty out.